The worst part about betrayal isn't the lies, it's the realization that the people you trusted the most were the ones who hurt you the deepest. I ran away from home not to escape my problems, but to escape the pain of being surrounded by the people who caused them. They called it teenage drama, but the truth was my life was about to become a whole lot more complicated than I could have ever imagined. The only time in life when hating everyone is a perfectly valid philosophy, and I'm fine is code for, I'm emotionally spiraling into oblivion, but please don't ask me what's a girl to do. My best friend and boyfriend betrayed me 14 years ago. My mom insisted I forgive them. I exposed her truth and now she's divorced. This incident dates back to when I was 17, still in high school. We were a close-knit group of 3, Aurora, Rob, and me. Aurora and I have been best friends since diapers. Rob became our friend when we were 6 and 7, so we have known each other forever. Aurora, Rob, and I pledged to be lifelong friends, just like our parents. Rob and I started dating when I was 15. It wasn't just a teenage fling. We dated for 2 years and I was serious. At least I thought he was too. We planned on enrolling in the same college and then getting married. People used to call Aurora the third wheel, but Aurora and I were so close that Rob said he felt like the third wheel between us. Perhaps I was the extra wheel. I'll get into it eventually. When we were 17, Aurora got knocked up. She was so terrified that she locked herself in the school's washroom. I was horrified too when I saw those 2 pink lines. I asked her who the guy was, but she didn't say anything. All she did was cry and dread her parents' reaction. She tested twice in front of me to calm herself down. I asked her to see a doctor before telling her parents. I took her to the doctor and her pregnancy was confirmed. She was so scared of her parents that she kept it hidden for almost a month. That month was equally tough for me. I brought her supplements, ensured she had proper meals, got her snacks and juices, and lent her a shoulder to cry on. She confided in me about her fear, anxiety, and uncertainty. I was her only support, yet she wasn't willing to reveal the guy's name. Despite her keeping that a secret, I supported her through all means. I finally convinced her to speak to her parents before it became evident. She asked me to be with her when she told them. I agreed. It wasn't unusual for our parents to see us bailing each other out. Her parents thought it was one such matter. The moment she revealed she was pregnant, her parents called mine to share their distress. She didn't reveal the guy's name, even in front of her parents. She cried so profusely that my parents asked her to calm down and give Aurora time to confide in them. 2 days later, my mom told me not to visit Aurora so often and that I should focus on my studies instead of being a babysitter to my friend. This restriction wasn't like, Aurora is bad company for you, because she was very protective towards her. A week later, I got to know why she was asking me to stay away from Aurora, not to protect me, but to protect her. That evening, I randomly showed up at Aurora's. There, I found Rob with his parents. Both Aurora and Rob were crying. Even my parents were present. As soon as my mother saw me, she rushed to me and asked me to go home. I asked her what was wrong. She said it was none of my business. Seeing me, Rob and Aurora both were astonished, and I instantly understood what was wrong. I screamed at them, "The baby's Rob's! You both were fooling around behind my back." Then they both rushed to me and kept saying, "We can explain." I said, "No explanation, the truth is out and open. My boyfriend and my best friend are hooking up behind my back, and my best friend is having his baby." My parents dragged me out from there because I was screaming so loud. I came home and locked myself up. I cried for days, curling up inside my bed. It was beyond heartbreaking. I trusted her blindly and supported her by all means in tough times while she was effing my boyfriend in her backyard. The worst part was everyone was so occupied with caring for the would-be mama that no one even thought about my pain. Surely Aurora and Rob tried to reach out to me, but I slammed the door in their face. I blocked both of them on all social media platforms. It was understandable for Aurora's and Rob's parents to not care about my heartbreak, but even my parents were least empathetic about it. My mom was like, "Get over it, be happy, your best friend is going to have a baby. You'll be a fun aunt of a cute little munchkin." She acted so delusional. I mean, my best friend is carrying my boyfriend's baby and she wants me to be happy about that? She said, "Oh, come on, don't spoil this for everyone. All of us are so happy to welcome the baby into our lives. Don't ruin that. It's not a big deal for Rob to sleep with your friend. It's very common in teenage years. Don't take it to your heart. I'm sure you'll soon find another loving boyfriend." She winked and said, "More handsome and tall than Rob." My mental condition got worse. I couldn't place my finger on when this would have happened and how I couldn't see it coming. No one was there for me to confide in. My sister, who was 15 back then, was dating Aurora's brother, so she was definitely on her side. When I cried in front of her, she said, "How could you not guess that Rob was the dad? You three are always together. If any of you two are having a baby, it has to be Rob's." So she also preached to me the same thing. Move on. Don't spoil our relationship with them. The school was the worst. Rob and Aurora had dropped out. Rob couldn't take the bullies, and Aurora dropped out for obvious reasons. I had no friends besides these two losers, and everyone in the school knew that I and Rob were dating. Then Rob made Aurora pregnant, and they both dropped out, leaving me at the mercy of the bullies. My family was more concerned about their friendship with Aurora's and Rob's parents than about my feelings. Dad was still better. He used to check on me sometimes, but Mom was the worst. She was supplying Aurora with handmade cookies while I was crying and sulking in my room. She belittled and laughed at my feelings. As her pregnancy grew, my condition became worse. It was just so difficult to see Rob taking Aurora for walks, for checkups, and for dates to ease her anxiety. My family asked me to look away from them and move on. I don't know how I could move on. I mean, they both were my neighbors. It was not only difficult, but impossible to not run into one of them at least once a day. On top of that, my family was constantly engaged in conversations about their baby. They called themselves the would-be grandparents. Yeah, our families had been close. If she was having a baby with anyone else, I would have shared the same happiness as them, but not anymore. My mental state went for a toss. It got so bad that on the day of my final exams at high school, I packed my bag to run away from home. I've been planning on this ever since their baby-making news came out. I was saving up for it. I had sold all my books, comics, gadgets, watches, and whatever little jewelry I owned. I told them I was going on a trek with my friends. My family was so done with my sulking that they didn't ask anything and said, "Sure, have fun." I left home, never to come back again. I went to the next town, lived in a hostel, and waited tables for a living. It was stressful, with immense uncertainty about the future, but I felt so much better than to be at home. After a month, my parents started contacting me, asking me when I would return home. I had changed my number. They emailed me. I blocked them from there too. They used other email IDs to write me, so I told my sister that I was not returning home ever and asked them not to contact me. They were emailing me from other IDs, so I changed that too. That was it. I don't know what they would do to find me. Living alone was not hunky-dory, but eventually I navigated. I waited tables for 2 years, then took up a receptionist job for another year, and lastly, landed a sales job that lasted for 3 years. I met my husband when I was working in sales. He was a marketing guy. We both connected over our troubled family issues. He lost his mom at an early age, and his dad married a teenage girl of his age and forced him to call their mom. Gaslighting and verbal abuse followed until he ran away from home. We had known each other for just a year when he said he wanted to fund my college education, which I could pay him back later. He wanted me to do better in life. I accepted his offer and went to college. I continued to work part-time during college to take care of my other expenses. I studied accounting and grabbed a decent-paying job right after my graduation. On my first day after work, he proposed to me and we got married a year later. We have a son now. Life is good. A month ago, we went to Disneyland, and there we bumped into my sister who was there with her family. She had married Aurora's brother and had a son with him. I hugged her son, and the moment was so surreal. I hugged my sister, and we cried. She hated me for ghosting her. She and her husband, Aurora's brother, both apologized for not supporting me enough. I said, "Let the bygones be bygones, and let's enjoy the trip." We all enjoyed it like a family. I exchanged contacts with her. She made me promise to stay in touch with her. Now she went home and told Mom about bumping into me. She texted me that Mom was asking for my number. I was still not sure if I wanted to get in touch with her. My husband advised me to make peace with my family and move on, so I gave the green signal to my sister about sharing my number. Just an hour later, I got a call from my mother. She was sobbing over the call. She relented her mistakes. She said she was sorry that I had to go through all of this. She said she was yearning to meet my grandchild. She's insisting me to visit home with my family. Well, I didn't say yes or no yet. I'm thinking what to do. Hey, pause for a moment. Would you care to support us? Like this video and subscribe for more. Now let's dive back into the story. Edit. I missed one important point. My sister was showing me pictures of my brother's children, and while scrolling through the gallery, I stumbled upon her family picture. It was Aurora and Rob. My sister told me Aurora and Rob got married 4 years after I ran away from home. They had 2 more boys, apart from the first baby girl. I just smiled and said nothing. She wanted to say more about them, but seeing me not interested, she backed off. First, it's the unexpected pregnancy bombshell with Aurora crying in the school bathroom, and you playing the supportive friend like it's your full-time job. Then comes the gut punch revelation. Your bestie's bun in the oven belongs to none other than your boyfriend Rob. Oh boy, that's quite the revelation. But here's where the real drama unfolds. Your family, seemingly more invested in Aurora's baby shower than your broken heart. Your mom offering cookies to the mom-to-be while you're left drowning in the sea of betrayal and hurt feelings. And nothing says teenage angst like staging your disappearance act. Update on, hey guys, sorry for not updating this earlier. Let me start from where I left off. After a lot of contemplation, I went to meet my family. My parents hugged me and cried. Yeah, they apologized for neglecting my feelings. It was a bittersweet moment for us. My sister was there with her husband and kids. Her husband, Aurora's brother, also apologized to me and requested me to be in touch. It was so nice to meet them all. We all grew up together like a family. My brother, who was 10 when I left, is also married now and has a 2-month-old infant. It felt so good to hold and play with my nieces and nephews. We went there for a 2-day trip. The first day was so emotional and beautiful in its way. My parents met my husband and my son, who was so delighted to meet his grandparents. On the second day, I was casually chit-chatting with my sister, and my mom came in and said, "See, I told you I knew you would find a better man than Rob. And see, you did find such a good husband. You unnecessarily blew up the entire situation." My sister gave her a look and asked her to stop, but who could stop her? She continued, "Oh, that's okay. Celine's over her past now. Look how happy she is in her life." I said, "Surely I am." She sat beside me and said, "Then why not make peace with the past, forgive everyone, and move on?" I said, "I did make peace with the past, and I have forgiven you all." She said she didn't mean them, but Rob and Aurora. She wanted me to forgive them and get into talking terms with them so that we could all hang out as a family like before. I said, "Why do you want me to do that? You guys still hang out with them without me." She said, "It embarrasses them that you don't talk to their children, Aurora and Rob, but their children are so nice to my parents." I said, "But your other 2 children, my brother and my sister, are nice to your friends. Be happy with that. Why bother me?" She insisted that I forgive Aurora and Rob and become their friends again. I said, "No way, and it is none of your business." She started preaching to me the importance of forgiveness and Jesus stuff. Then she said, "Aurora wants to meet you and your husband. Can I call her for dinner?" I said, "If you do that, I'm leaving the house now and never coming back." At this point, my siblings also got pissed off at Mom, asking her why she told Aurora about my visit. In her defense, Mom said, "Aurora's dad saw me through the window and he might have told Aurora, and then Aurora called Mom and requested her to patch me up with them." I got so furious at her lame excuse that I stood up and went into my room. My sister followed me inside the room and said, "Mom has a weird obsession with Aurora's family. I mean, yeah, they are all friends now from 4 decades, but the way Mom cares to keep the friendship smooth, it looks so fishy now." I asked her what made her say so. She said, "Last year, she and her husband were going through turbulence in their relationship. My sister casually mentioned to Mom that if her husband continues his gaslighting habit, she might divorce him. Mom lost her crap and said outrightly that there would be no divorce, whatever happens. Sister has to adjust even if he cheated on her, because we cannot ruin their friendship." Sounds weird. Me and my sister looked back at the past and realized Mom had always been like this. She always loved Aurora and her brother more than us. Back then, we never complained about this because Aurora was my best friend, and her brother was my sister's boyfriend. Discussion over. We came back home. I almost forgot about this talk with my sister last week. My husband showed me a video where a middle-aged couple is making out at a bar. The couple is none other than my mother with Aurora's dad. Yes, it blew my mind. My mother's obsession with keeping a good relationship with them makes so much sense now. They can hang out anytime they want. My husband went to the next town, not my hometown, for a work trip, and there he saw them. He recognized that it was Mom, but didn't recognize that the man was Aurora's dad. He recorded it to show me because there was no way I would have believed him without the video. After seeing the video, I was choking. I needed to spit that out, so I called my sister and asked her to come down the next day. She sensed it was urgent, and she rushed. I showed her the video, and she was equally shocked. My sister has not told her husband yet because he would be equally freaked out. Now we are at a fix of what we do. Do we tell Dad about this, or should we confront Mom and ask her to mend her ways? But wouldn't that be cheating on Dad again? It's getting complicated. Did not see that coming. Mom's playing footsie with Aurora's dad at the local watering hole. I mean, talk about keeping it in the family, right? Who knew your mom had such a penchant for scandalous rendezvous? And here we were thinking her idea of excitement was knitting on a Friday night. To tell or not to tell Dad is the million-dollar question. Confronting Mom might feel like stirring the pot, but hey, if she's dishing out the drama, she better be ready to eat her serving. Update 2, my parents are getting divorced. Yes, for obvious reasons. My sister and I spent weeks thinking about what to do. I at least could discuss it with my husband and vent out, but my sister's condition was worse. She can't even discuss that with her husband. Her anxiety and silence were spoiling her relationship. We had to do something, so we did what any other sibling in the world would do. We told our brother, thinking he might come up with a better idea to deal with the situation. On seeing the video, he lost it. He went straight to Mom and confronted her in front of Dad. She denied it, and he rubbed the video on her face. I don't know if it was wise or foolish of us to involve him, but at least he offloaded our burden. Brother told us that he was pissed with Mom all his life because she had been ignoring him in front of Aurora and her brother. He said he hated me and my sister because of our closeness with that family, but when he grew up, our closeness made sense, but Mom's didn't. Dad and my brother almost barged into their house and showed the video to Aurora's mom, who broke down on seeing her husband making out with her mother. To simplify the matter to you guys, Mom was sleeping with Dad's best friend. Yeah, by then, everyone got to know the truth, including Rob and his parents. Dad and Aurora's mom became a team and grilled Mom and Aurora's dad. We wanted to be neutral, but we couldn't after knowing that they had been fooling around ever since we were children. Initially, they claimed it started recently as a midlife crisis, but their stories were inconsistent. Dad threatened to throw her out of the house right away. Then they spoke the truth of cheating for over 25 years. Yes, they've been doing this under everyone's nose and no one ever suspected them. Dad tried to hold the fort for the sake of the family, but he grew miserable. One day he just showed up at my door, hugged me, and cried like a baby. He said now he understood what pain I must have gone through when my boyfriend cheated on me with my best friend. Mom did the same thing with Dad, sleeping with his best friend. It's terrible. It's like getting stabbed from both ends. Dad called all three of us, me, my sister, and my brother, for a meeting. He said he was sorry, but he could not forgive Mom and live with her anymore, pretending nothing happened. Mom was telling him the same thing she told me: forgive and move on. Dad was proceeding with a divorce, and before that, he wanted to inform us. All three of us lent our support to him, saying that we are with him whatever he decides. When Mom got to know that Dad was going to serve her, she blacked out. She pleaded with him to give her one last chance for the sake of the family. I was not present at the time, but my sister was, and she gave Mom a piece of her mind. It was one huge drama in the family. Dad ultimately got her served and moved out. A similar story happened with Aurora's parents. Her mom has filed for a divorce and she has also moved out of the house. So in my house, Mom is alone, and in her house, her dad is alone. They might just move in together, who knows? Bless in disguise for them, who knows? They both might have been waiting to live together anyway. I'm out of this. I have my own family to care for. These divorces have been rough on my sister because both sides of her family are affected. She and her husband are going through tough times. I hope the relationship doesn't suffer in between all this and they sail through this rough patch. Thanks for all the love. I'll update the thread if anything develops. Talk about shaking up the family tree. Your mom and Aurora's dad were caught in the act of clandestine canoodling for over a quarter of a century. I mean, talk about dedication to the affairs game. They were practically the Bonnie and Clyde of infidelity, sneaking around behind everyone's backs like a pair of undercover agents. But hey, at least your dad and Aurora's mom are taking charge and kicking those cheaters to the curb. Divorce might be messy, but it's better than living a lie, right? As for you, well, it sounds like you've got your circus to run with your own family now. Time to leave the drama behind and focus on keeping your ship afloat. After all, you've had enough of family fireworks to last a lifetime. Thoughts? How would you have handled the situation? Let's conclude the story shortly. Life is a roller coaster, and mine has been a wild ride. The betrayals, the heartache, the running away, the finding love, the family drama. It's been a whirlwind. But through it all, I've learned to be strong, to stand up for myself, and to choose happiness. My parents are divorced, and while it was a painful process, it ultimately brought them both peace. They are both happier now, and that's what matters. My sister is still navigating the fallout from all of this, but she is strong and will come out of it. As for me, I have my husband and son. They are my world, my everything, and I'm finally at peace with my past. I still think about Aurora and Rob sometimes, but I don't hate them anymore. I understand that they made mistakes, and I've forgiven them. I'm not sure if we will ever be friends again, but I'm not holding on to the anger anymore. I've learned that forgiveness isn't about them, it's about me. It's about freeing myself from the pain of the past. I'm grateful for the journey. It's made me who I am today. I'm a survivor, a fighter, and a loving wife and mother, and that's all that matters. After experiencing the full journey of our story, we'd love to hear your thoughts. How did the story resonate with you? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay blessed. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next story.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. "I will do my best." Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. "Did you not hear what I said?" "I'm sorry." I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, "I'm thirsty." Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. "I don't care what they say, I plan to quit any time," he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. "To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance." As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here." "He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.